podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your post-match Raw. Podcasting to you in a congested fashion from my field here in beautiful rural Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and joining me to give their immediate reactions to the frankly remarkable Liverpool 4, Bayern Leverkusen 0 in the Champions League from Anfield are Dave Hendrick and Harry Sethi. Dave, we've been being a little bit getting a little bit of voyeuristic pleasure out of the lack of results elsewhere, and it's rolling into a hell of a few days between possibly the perfect weekend for Liverpool supporters, followed now by one of the most perfect European nights you could imagine. I thought the crowd were fucking amazing in a game that they didn't have to be amazing in at all. I thought, you know, when we clicked, we looked outrageous. We always have that impression under slot that there are levels to our game that we can go up into. And when you have the bonus of other teams, seemingly falling apart at just the right time, you've got to love it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack after tonight. It really, the proverbial game of two halves. A first half in which we didn't look particularly good at all, and the knives came out at half time for people like Alexis McAllister, Curtis Jones, Cody Gakpo, and Luis Diaz. And then this phenomenal second half, which is the best footballing half we've had in years, maybe going back as far as the second half of that semi-final against Barcelona. Obviously, much different stakes on the game because we'd put ourselves in a great position with 3 wins from 3. Going into this competition, this and the Real game were ones we were looking at and thinking, okay, well, if we take a point from those games, that'll be a solid result because we feel we can win the other 6. And we've just slapped them around the place tonight. Now we're 4 wins from 4. The Reds are top of absolutely everything they can be top of. Arne Slot has the most beautiful bald head in the world. And Xabi Alonso might have to go on fraud watch a little bit. And these are all tremendous things.
You've got to love it. You have got to love it. Looking at the Champions League table is full of... It's a life-affirming thing, Harry, because of what it means in terms of what's in the bank now. Immediately, from the first 4 fixtures, we have maximum points. We have 12 points. Now, nobody would have said that was a given when you consider the teams that we had to play. Most people would have been bullish about Bologna and maybe even some about AC Milan, but they have managed to pull off a win against Real Madrid tonight. But, you know, the other 2 games, there were 2 challenging, difficult German teams. And to be sitting proudly there at the top of that pile, it's quite something. And probably the pile we're all even more excited about is sitting top of the domestic league as well. It is a hell of a time. 14 wins out of 16 for Arne Slot. You have to keep echoing this stat as it rolls on because everyone, and I mean everyone, Harry, has been waiting for the arse to drop out of it. And it shows no signs of doing so.
No, absolutely. It's quite a concept, this winning thing. I mean, I'll quote one of our favourites. I think which I think is good. Top of the table is where this club belongs, nothing less. Right? I think that's one Mo Salah who posted that midweek, didn't he, after that game? And
the naughty tweet.
Yeah, exactly, the naughty one. Sort of the. I mean, yeah, this is the guy. I've said it before. This is the guy who him and his agent. There is an academic study on how well they negotiated that last contract. So, I don't believe anything is done without sort of methodical planning from that man. I think you only have to look at his physique to know that. But no, I think this is a wonderful place to be. looking at those other results as well, and seeing the other teams that we, have a dislike for suffering in their matches was a delight. And I think what's been good about so many of these games so far this season, and Dave mentioned it there, is that I feel like there have been tests, there have been questions that have been asked of this team and the coaching staff, and I feel as though every single one of these questions will stand us in good stead because they've been different kind of questions that we've had to answer, and very often the team. He's sent the same team out to answer that question. Occasionally, there's changes that have been made that have helped turn the game. And this latest kind of addition, I suppose, to Arne Slot's belt, as well as he's starting to experience, I suppose, this Anfield atmosphere as well. I mean, I was lucky to get to the game on the weekend against Brighton. Really tough first half. Brighton by far the better side. I think Arne Slot was happy to admit that. The crowd gets involved in the second half. 2 goals in 3 minutes, intensity, and a side wilting under that. I think we saw similar tonight, really. This is a high-quality side in Leverkusen. You only have to look at their record over a huge stretch of games to know that they're no mugs. And, you can see they're disciplined, worked really hard off the ball. I thought the first half was just a pretty good arm wrestle. I thought we could have been better, of course. And then we just upped it. The crowd upped it. The intensity levels were ratcheted up, and we saw another side wilt on a European night at Anfield. And what I really liked about which is similar to, I suppose, Jurgen's time here, is when we had our foot on their necks, we didn't stop. We kept going. We saw opportunities. We could have scored more, to be honest. And to see the icing on the cake be a Lucho Diaz hat-trick with a no-look finish for the third, Bobby smiling somewhere. Just a delight, Trev.
How am I doing, boss? You're doing fine, son. It's
how much longer do we have to wait, do you think, for that meme to make an appearance?
I really hope someone does it.
I reckon if we beat City, someone will bring it out. So if we beat Madrid and City back to back, someone's breaking out that meme.
Well, if they don't do it with the camp RNA, I'm fucking rioting.
I was saying, Trev, I think if they do it for Lucho with Bobby, then rather than the godly rays, I want the rays to be emanating off of his teeth, just shining down.
Yeah, basking in the glory of Bobby's teeth. And listen, you're right. You mentioned the Anfield crowd, and one of the highlights of tonight was when the game is in the bag at 3-0 up. And, to echo your point of we still have another one in us, and the foot doesn't come off the neck. But the crowd are right up for it. There's the Arne Slot song, which they were singing, and then they throw out the Xabi Alonso song, Bless Their Heart. Then we had the greatest midfield in the world just for the crack. And we had Ring of Fire at one stage too. All of these Xabi-inspired tunes, because our lot are fucking fantastic when everything's going well, and at times, like tonight, when everything isn't going well. It's a very good tribute, I thought. We talk a lot about the atmosphere on this show and how it can have a direct input. Harry, you're so right. It's like Arne's really understanding that for himself now for the first time, beginning to understand what a tool it is in that weaponry that he has. Let me stay with you, Harry, just to talk about the Liverpool team real quick. It's a little bit more like business pool. We have Kelleher, we have Trent, Konate, Van Dijk and Tsimikas, and it would seem, I think, you'd have to say, given the fact that it was Brighton, who are a good team, and then this lot tonight, who are a good team, that perhaps he has edged ahead in the thinking of the manager of Robbo. It's a suggestion. Tonight we went with Jones, with Gravenberch and McAllister, as opposed to Dom Szoboszlai, and the front three of Salah, Gakpo and Diaz meant we had Núñez on the bench with Szoboszlai, with Endo, with Joey Gomez, who did so well when he came on recently, with Davies and Jarosz, and he Robbo on there with Quansah, Morton and Bradley, and that's a hell of a strong looking squad. Couldn't really quibble too much with that starting lineup. I think an awful lot of people including our colleague here tonight, I've heard him say on the show, if it's toss-up between Dom and Curtis, there's good stuff to get from both of them. It's hard to be too upset which of them gets the job. And if that's going to be the way it is, I'm kind of okay with that. What was your take when you saw that lineup?
Yeah, I wasn't too surprised by it. I mean, I think the one thing I was thinking about in the lead up to the game was just sort of the fitness level of Konate. He did seem to shake off whatever that wrist injury was, from looking like he'd sort of broken his wrist to seeming absolutely fine tonight. I wondered whether or not Gomez would get rewarded for what was I thought a really outstanding cameo against Brighton. I'm sure there's something in his minutes that perhaps they decided not to do that. Ibu comes in; it's the first choice back four. I would agree with you, Trev. I think at this stage, Tsimikas' performances have merited this. And I think we can come on to talk about him tonight. I thought he was really excellent again tonight on the whole. And Curtis, I think it's a complete it's a safe pair of hands when he comes in. You can trust him to do the work that we need him to do, to retain the ball as he does. And what was great tonight was, especially with that assist that he got as well, was we saw a little bit of the old Curtis with that vision and that creative flair, and hopefully a bit more of that comes back into his game as he realizes that he's got the rest of the kind of defensive foundations locked down. So yeah, then Nunes or Diaz over Nunes rather. Made sense to me, given tonight's opponents, given the work rate that we can expect from those three, and given Gakpo's form as well. I suppose it gives him more confidence by getting involved like that. So you couldn't really quibble, as you mentioned there. I think the only thing I had was, could Gomez have crept his way in? But other than that, I think the team picks itself.
It was a tough first half, Dave. Because the opposition was so full of quality players, trying to do the right thing, trying to play at a high tempo, play through us, be press resistant themselves. I thought they really put in a fine kind of impression in that first half, and it made me wonder if I was being a little extra kind of harsh about my assessment of how Liverpool had done, like it had been maybe against Arsenal, and then a couple of other first halves. We've had a few awful ones, don't get me wrong, but because of the standard of the team. Now, I was watching, I don't know what stream or what you were watching, but I was watching the Premier Sports crew, and to go back to half time and listen to Kenny Cunningham and Shay Given and Martin O'Neill. The only team they talked about was Liverpool, and how poor Liverpool were. They didn't acknowledge that maybe Leverkusen weren't at their finest, or they didn't say that Leverkusen were fantastic to make us look so poor. They had nothing to say about them. Leverkusen tonight started with Radecki in goal, Tapsoba, Ta, Hincapié, and Frimpong, Palacios, Garcia, Xhaka, Grimaldo, Wirtz, and Boniface, and there's a lot of good players there. On their bench, they had probably a less strong bench than they'd like, but still the likes of Hoffman, Andrich, Arthur, Schick, Tella, and Onyeka. It's a remarkable run of results that this team has put together under Xabi Alonso. It's something that we should be really emphasising when we're talking about the enormity of this result for us as well, and the standard of performance that we have to put in that second half to beat a team that I think has lost, is it 2 or 3 times in 69 games. It's a hell of a tribute, and you can see why, can't you, Dave? There's a lot of great footballers in that lineup.
Oh, there's some fantastic footballers in that lineup. They've been absolutely outstanding under Alonso for most of his tenure there. Now, this season they haven't been quite as good. They've struggled to turn draws into wins. They're conceding goals at a much higher rate than they did last year. Last year, I think 24 or 26 goals through the whole Bundesliga campaign. This year, already 15. So there are some cracks in the armour this year, but nobody has done what we've just done. Nobody has done that. And you go player by player, and there's just a lot of talent there. The 2 wing-backs, Frimpong and Grimaldo, they're both excellent. They're among the very best at what they do. Tapsoba is very good. Hincapié, I thought, was excellent for them tonight.
Outrageous.
He would be my number one pick for us at left back.
Yeah.
You can put anyone else up. I'm taking him. I thought he defended Mo as well as I've ever seen anyone defend Mo 1v1. And yet
he's a niggly little bastard as well.
He is. He brings that horrible needle that Robbo used to bring as well, which I really like. And he's tough as nails too. And yet, Mo is such a great player. Mo still gets 2 assists. That's because Mo is an old-timer. Tapsop is good. He's good. Palacios is good. Xhaka has been excellent since going there. But none of us factored in the Granit Xhaka at Anfield factor, where he's always terrible at Anfield. And then in attack, they're really good players they've got lined up in their attack. Boniface is a very promising young striker, 23, but he's younger in footballing terms. He doesn't have a huge amount of experience. Florian Wirtz is one of the most promising players on the planet. It's a good team. It's a good team. They're top 4 in the Bundesliga. Put it this way. Go back 8 months. Europa League. We can potentially draw them. And we're all thinking if we draw them, they'll wipe the floor with us. That's 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Now, from a personnel point of view, very little has changed. Nothing has changed on our side other than Alisson is injured. So we've actually, in terms of the personnel, weakened a bit.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Very little has changed on their side. Alex Garcia, I think, is the only player starting tonight who wasn't a regular for them last season. They brought him in the summer from Girona, a good player. So if anything, they've gotten a little bit stronger personnel-wise. And yet we've wiped the floor with them in the second half tonight. And it's a real marker of how quickly Arne Slot has put his impression on this team. You said it. 16 games, 14 wins. That's sensational. Let's remember, Liverpool were finished. We were washed. Gary Neville was practically having a wank on Sky because Klopp was leaving. And here we are. Nearly as good as any time under Klopp, already under this manager. Nearly. Not quite there yet, but we're getting there. Still
with the potential to be better. That's the best thing about it.
With obvious areas to improve on.
Yeah.
That was Klopp's finished product. This is Arne just getting the reins. But look, take nothing away from Liverpool tonight because they're such a good team. Their form may be a little bit off. You could make the argument it was the right time to play them, but nobody has done to them what we've just done. And again, none of us wanted them in the Europa League last year. None of us. Because we knew they'd batter us. And tonight we've done the battering.
And for once, we had a comparatively unremarkable refereeing performance from the very experienced Danny McKelly. I can't put my finger on who Danny reminds me of. He's like a mixture of Val Kilmer and Mickey Rourke after he's had some plastic surgery done to his head. I can't work out quite what's going on there, but there's something going on there. I'll get it. I'm going to nail that before this is over this season. Let's start, Harry, you and I, with the first half, the less exciting of the two, but yet, some bits going. Initially, McAllister was right at it. There was a lovely driven pass by him, and then a big win high up the field, all within the first minute. He looked like he was starting on fire. Anfield sounded remarkable. That fantastic Luis Diaz chant. It could be an all-timer, that one. Has the place rocking. Really good move by us. Saw Cody Gakpo kind of pulling a shot across the face, which got blocked in 6 minutes. Another nice bit of football in 13. Luis Diaz run. Mo played in Curtis, but Curtis's shot was lacking conviction and easily saved. There was a dig by Tapsoba, kind of a low dig at Quevian on the 15-minute mark, and then poor Virgil took a Xhaka shot straight to the face after they managed a kind of a rare move forward for them on 17 minutes. And it has to be said that it's important to kind of establish the facts of the match as opposed to the narrative of the match, which is served up to you by whoever your chosen pundits are. They had not had any forward wanderings apart from that one sort of dig by Tapsoba and then the Xhaka shot, but it's not even a target, and Virgil blocks on the edge of the box. Some great defensive work by Ibu Konate in the early goings in this match and throughout. One of my new favourite features about watching Liverpool is hearing the massive Ibu shout every time he's on the ball. Somebody said to me on Twitter, and I love this, it's like the anti-Joe Gomez shoot thing. This actually warms your heart when you hear it because it's just pure love coming from the fans, and it sounds like they're booing him, which is an added little bit of irony. But great work by Ibu, and some good defensive work by Trent to give him his flowers as well on 21 minutes where he covers right across to block off Boniface. There is a yellow on 25 where Garcia basically just throws Mo Salah to the deck in stages. And then we'll pause here at the 26-minute mark. Not that there's a whole lot more for me to chat to Dave about, but we will pause here. And this was, again, more good football by us. A great Luis Diaz, I think, switch ball to Mo. And then Mo coming in from that left does one of his painted outside the foot crosses, which causes absolute chaos. Now, as well as that, by the way, just one little add on there. In there as well in my notes, I've mentioned there's a couple of really good progressive Gravenberch passes forward in that period of play as well. They didn't necessarily lead anywhere, but they were nice to see because they were semi-adventurous. We all know how good he is at holding and carrying and progressing the ball when he's sort of running with it. But it's nice to see him hit those passes into sort of half spaces with people on the turn. I have not described a whole lot of fantastic Bayern Leverkusen chances and possession, Harry. And yet to hear all pundits at halftime, you would think, they were absolutely fantastic and way better than us. The facts of that opening 25 minutes to half an hour are that we were definitely the better team. Not as good as we'd like, of course, but definitely the better team.
Yeah, I thought we were the team that was looking to impose themselves on the match with the home side, and you're trying to exert your influence on what is a really well-drilled, well-organised, disciplined side full of quality players, like Dave mentioned. These are no mugs, and they don't get beaten very often, right? I think there's even this stat is going around that Bayer Leverkusen have only lost twice in all competitions since Jordan Henderson last played for Liverpool. It has been a while for them, and we weren't just going to steamroller them. And I think that was very much their intention when they set up to start the game, right? So there were a lot of complaints about that first half. I thought it was a really good contest, right? I thought Liverpool, you could see how if we were able to play quicker, have a little bit snappier combinations. Progress the ball centrally a bit more easily, a bit quicker, that we could cause them problems. And when the game broke down a little bit and they weren't in their structure, you could see that they were vulnerable, but we weren't able to really disrupt that structure enough as we would have liked, because I think they're pretty well drilled. They're working very hard off the ball. But still, it wasn't. There were no concerns really for me there. They didn't look like a real threat from an attacking perspective. I thought we were sort of Verts quite well despite his movement and how he was popping up here and there. Boniface, I think the commentary I was listening to, much was made about him being an old-fashioned centre forward. How would he cope against? How would Virgil and Ibu cope against him? And he's a bit of a non-factor, to be honest. Apart from maybe a handful of half chances, and so I thought it was just a really good tussle, Trevor. If I'm honest, between two quality sides who were working quite hard to counteract what the other were doing. You could see how Liverpool were trying to impose themselves a little bit more, and how they could maybe actually cause Leverkusen problems, but we weren't quite able to maintain like a small period of momentum, or like really sort of have them rattled. We'll come on to that in the second half, of course, but yeah, there weren't too many complaints for me, because I could sort of see how we could change things up if we were able to have the similar kind of turnaround that we did against Brighton, where we could sort of raise that intensity level, move the ball quicker, be a bit more aggressive in the pressing when we needed to. I think we saw that in the second half. But I mean, if we were to compare this half, Trev, with the first half against Brighton in the Premier League, I mean, Brighton were by far the more impressive side and deserved to be inflicting sort of punishment on us. This was, in my view, a good contest.
Yes, maybe a little bit ironic that the intensity has finally returned to us in patches, at least, second halves at least. Yeah. Now the intensity boy has left. Quite interesting. Dave, it's true what Harry says there. I agree with all the observations. You'd have to admit, though, in the second half of the first half, that's when they do start to get a little bit of a foothold, and any of their good moments seem to happen here. At some point, I wouldn't mind getting a take from you on this supposed rehabilitation of Xhaka, because it seemed to me that when they were on the back foot, that he ceased to be this controlling footballer. Yeah, so I wouldn't mind just hearing what you have to say on that. But let's run through the events that remain in this first half, and then you can zone in on that if you fancy it at some point. 33 minutes, we saw some good centre-forward play by Luis Diaz. I like him in that middle position. Xhaka was the one who took him out and led to a free kick sort of to the right of the D. A good spot for us. Went off the wall from Trent for a corner, and then the keeper caught the Tsimikas corner under the bar. Grimaldo then has a good hit after some very good play by Florian Wirtz on 36 minutes. His shot, Grimaldo's, was over the top. Then Trent had to do very well versus Boniface on 41 minutes, right on the byline. I thought he did really well there in that 1v1 challenge. 43, we do actually fashion an opportunity. It's Tsimikas who does well to feed Trent. His ball to Mo is fantastic as he carries it, cuts in and shoots. But Mo's effort is off the keeper's legs. Then they have their best moment of the half, where they have it in the net via Frimpong. And it's unfortunate for the kid, to be honest. I don't know how much intention there is to the handball. I could be giving him too much benefit of the doubt, but it's definitely a movement of the hand to the ball, and their goal is ruled out. It was a fantastic hit, a good strike. They call us nice and cold on the break. 2 minutes were added, and we got an effort in those 2 minutes. Cody Gakpo cutting in, hitting a powerful sort of left-footed dig at the near post where the keeper was. And then as the rebound came out, Tsimikas floated over a dangerous cross, but there was nobody there to get on the end of it. So, I mean, again, it's not like we lay down and let them roll over us. We've created a couple of opportunities in that period that I've just described as well, but it was probably their best period of the game, Dave.
Yeah, it was. I mean, look, you're right. It's not like they were dominating us, but they did have the better of that first half, particularly the back half of the first half. And their midfield just was controlling ours. They went 3v3 against us in the midfield, brought Alex Garcia just back a little bit to join Palacios and Xhaka. And they were able to control us. They were just more physical than us. It was a similar thing to what we saw at the weekend with the Brighton midfield, where they were just more physically commanding that. And I thought Alexis and Gravenberch were very poor in that first half. Curtis was basically in there. You know the gif of the fella in the lifeboat? There's like a big hole in the back of it, and he's there with a bucket trying to chuck water out of it, but the water keeps pouring in. That was basically Curtis in the first half in that midfield by himself. And like you said, I mean, you highlighted the varying chances. There was nothing hugely clear-cut from either team. They're a little bit unfortunate with the goal being disallowed. I don't think it's a purposeful movement to handle the ball. I think it's more his running motion as he tries to get himself around Tsimikas, and he's trying to scoop Tsimikas out of the way as well. But it does hit his arm, and unfortunately the rule is the rule, and therefore it's rightly ruled out. Jacques is a very interesting player. Like, I remember watching him years and years ago for for Borussia Mönchengladbach. And I remember thinking, this is a really good player. He's good on the ball, he's strong, he holds the ball. Like, he's like a better version of, say, a John McGinn, is what he was. He's a much better passer than McGinn, but he was that same kind of energetic, powerful, covered a lot of ground, wasn't the quickest in the world, but, you know, was mobile and got about the pitch. And then he went to Arsenal, and for years they seemed to think he was a defensive midfielder, and they sat him in that position, and unfortunately the lack of foot speed just caught up with him over and over again, and we saw him get a lot of yellow cards, a lot of red cards over his Arsenal career, be quite a defensive liability, and that took away from what he could do on the ball, and it clearly affected his confidence. And there was all the nonsense when he was getting booed after being brought off, and he was like waving at the crowd to, you know, bring it and give him more and whatever. All that kind of crap was just years of nonsense building up. Then in his last season with Arsenal, they finally moved him into a 4-3-3, which is what he's best in, not a 2, a 3, playing on the left of it with a real defensive midfielder in Thomas Partey, and letting him be more advanced, letting him be more attack-minded, not always sitting behind the play, but getting involved in the build-up on multiple occasions, which is what he'd always done for Switzerland, and he'd done it at Gladbach. And he was outstanding in that final season, up until about April when the wheels came off from Arsenal. It kind of coincided with his dip in form. Now, whether that was the team fell off, so he fell off, or he fell off, so the team fell off, I don't know. But he was really, really good that year. And then they decided to move him on. And I still haven't seen an Arsenal fan give a real explanation as to why they moved him on. But on he went, he goes to Leverkusen, he settles into that midfield pivot with Palacios, and it's a 3 at the back with him and Palacios in a double pivot, which again is not the same as playing in a 2 behind in front of a 4. There's less defensive requirements from him in that role. And last season, he was brilliant for them. Like, he was absolutely brilliant. But the difference is, last season, they were always on the front foot. They were always in control. They were dominant from August to May. In the few games where they weren't, he didn't play as well. And that's what we saw in the second half tonight. As we started to dominate play and forced him to do more defensive work, he just disappears out of the game. And he has no impact on the ball because he's putting in so much effort off the ball that when he gets it, he's too fucked to do anything. So he's just hot potatoing it on to somebody else. He needs a team that plays at a slower pace, has control of the ball, and allows him to move. Basically pass and move. That's where he's really good. When you put the pressure and the spotlight on him, that's where he doesn't perform well. He's got great ability. I think he's always been lacking a little bit on the mental side of the game, like dealing with pressure, dealing with that kind of constant harassment that you get in real high-tempo games. I don't think he deals well there. And I thought you saw that tonight, first half versus second half. First half looked very comfortable, very accomplished. Second half looked like a fella that had won a lottery.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.